All right, guys, today we are reading chapter 12 of The Honest Truth. This is the second to last chapter of the book. In yesterday's chapter, Mark started climbing up Mount Rainier and he got lost because he was lost in that blizzard. All right, and so chapter 12 continues on from there. And Mark now has 7 miles to go. Make sure you are annotating and taking notes as we are reading. I'll be annotating a few things as well, and you are welcome to copy those annotations. All the world was wind, snow and cold were all around, darkness was coming. My shivering was so violent now that it hurt. I stumbled forward, my feet numb. The wind blew right through my clothes, even though I was wearing them all now. My coat over my jacket, over my sweater, over my shirt. It still wasn't enough. The wind was a monster with icy claws that sunk deep into me and wouldn't let go. Bo floundered in the snow. His paws broke through in places, and he had to jump and bound to keep moving. The world was getting smaller and louder. It had frozen down to a shadowy circle of snow. Sometimes there would be a gust of wind, and the clouds around me would lift, and for a moment I could see out to snow ridges and cloud banks farther away. But mostly, I could only see the ground in front of me, my own feet, and the dog who stayed by my side through the storm. Yeah, I kept going. I don't know why. I wanted to reach the top of a mountain I hadn't even seen yet. I was so weak, just lifting my feet for the next step was almost more than I could do, but I kept going. There was no trail in front of me. I was lost completely, but it didn't bother me that much. Trails are for people who are coming back down. The only place I needed to go was up. I'm not giving up, I shouted into the wind, but my words came out as a wheeze, a cough. They were weak and breathless, and the wind snatched them away before the world could hear them. It was only me, and I was freezing to death. I lurched forward, all strength gone from my muscles. I tried to take another step and found that I couldn't. I struggled to move my leg forward, but it wouldn't budge. I thought I was stuck. Then I heard Bo whining, and he wasn't beside me. He was behind me. I looked down and saw him dug into my footprints, his teeth clenched around my pant leg. "Let me go," I said, and was scared at how blurry my words sounded. I tried again to move my leg, but he gripped harder. I stumbled and fell down to one knee. "What's the matter, Bo?" I gasped. He whined again and then let go of my pant leg long enough for one high bark. I knew that bark. It was the one he used when someone he didn't know was coming to the door. The one he used in the dark of night when he heard a sound he didn't like. It was his warning bark. He barked his warning bark and then grabbed back onto my pants. I knelt in the snow and tried to breathe and think, but I couldn't do a good job of either. I turned to peer through the blowing snow up ahead, and that's when I saw the crevasse. A crevasse is maybe the biggest danger that lurks for mountain climbers. It is, basically, a giant crack in the snow and ice, a long, skinny, jagged canyon that cuts across the mountain. They can be incredibly deep. A crevasse could be only 3 or 4 feet across at the top, but hundreds of deadly feet deep. Sometimes their tops get covered by snow, like the mountains laid a trap. If a climber falls in one, it's almost always the end of their story. You plunge down into the darkness, down until the space gets narrower and narrower, and you're finally stuck, pinched between 2 ice walls, far away from any rescue. You die of cold or hunger or suffocation, trapped in a dark coffin made of ice. They are a climber's greatest fear. Mount Rainier is covered with them. I want to pause here for a second because I want to make sure we are aware of the difference between a crevasse and a crevice. This word is crevasse. This word is crevice. And a crevice is just like a crack in the ground. But a crevasse is a big danger because it's a jagged canyon in the mountain. I'm going to show you a picture of this. Right here. So these are actually crevasses that you can see here It's a giant crack in the snow and ice. So imagine if you fell down there. The ice walls could have you stuck between them. And it goes all the way 1,000 meters below. This one is 1,000 meters deep. All right, so they're very, very dangerous. I think I have one more picture, and this one's from actually Mount Rainier, because Mount Rainier is a real mountain. Here are some climbers who are trying to climb down a crevasse in Mount Rainier. It's very, very deep. Now back to the reading. There was a crevasse stretching right in front of me. It was a 5 or 6 foot gap across the top. I couldn't see the bottom. I was only a step from tumbling down into it. My heart, already racing, hammered in my chest. Between the snow and the near darkness and my own sick stumbling, I hadn't seen it. I would have walked right into it if Bo hadn't stopped me. I sat in the snow and gasped heavy breaths and felt my heart pounding and peered down into what death looked like. It was black and cold and close. I couldn't see the bottom. I reached back and patted Bo with a cold, clumsy hand. Good dog, I puffed, and he let go of my pants. I leaned down and hugged him, pulled his shivering body tight against mine. Good dog, buddy. He licked at my chin. His tongue was cold and dry. I fumbled with my coat and my jacket, opened them up and let the icy air inside so I could pull my camera out. My fingers were dead and distant from the cold, but I managed to hold my camera up and out over the yawning mouth of the crevasse. It was death waiting. It was what I was running from and what I was walking toward. My throat was a hard, cold lump. I pressed the camera and snapped a picture of death. Photo number 10, might be 11. My sweater rode up and the wind bit like a hungry white wolf into my exposed stomach. I let the camera drop back to my chest and pulled my sweater down and zipped my coat back up. Even though I'd been kneeling there for a few minutes, I was still out of breath. My lungs couldn't find enough air up there to hold on to. I wiggled out of my backpack and dropped it on the snow in front of me. I couldn't feel my fingers inside my gloves, and I tried and could not pinch the zipper to pull it open. Finally, I bit in my teeth and tugged at the backpack with my hands until it pulled stiffly open. There wasn't much left inside besides my notebook, a couple of bananas almost frozen, a Snickers bar, a water bottle nearly full with a skin of ice on the top, a plastic baggie of dog treats. I tore the baggie open with my teeth and spilled the treats out onto the snow. Bo snapped them up and crunched them loudly in his mouth. I bit at the peel of the first banana and managed to get it off, and I scarfed down the banana in a few big, hungry bites. My stomach was sick and wasted, but it desperately wanted fuel, and the banana stayed down. I did the same with the second banana. I chewed right through the wrapper of the Snickers and dug into the candy bar with my teeth. It was mostly frozen, but still sweet and salty and delicious. I spit out the pieces of the wrapper when I could. My dry mouth almost stuck closed with the chocolate and caramel, but I didn't stop until the bar was gone. I almost smiled. It tasted so good. I shook the water bottle to break up the ice on top and gulped it down. It burned my throat. I poured the rest in a shaky stream for Bo, and he lapped at it as it fell. I hoped he got enough. I looked up past the crevasse that Bo had saved me from. The storm swirled and seethed. The sun, wherever it was almost gone now. Night was sneaking in through the wind and the snow. When I stood up, though, my legs had new strength. I don't know if it was from the rest or the food, but I was ready. Here we go, Bo, I panted, pulling the backpack back on. It weighed almost nothing. All I had left in it was a notebook and a pencil and some rope. I had almost nothing left. I turned and walked to the side along the gaping crevasse. It was black and the wind howled across its top. It looked hungry. It zigzagged diagonally up the slope, getting wider and skinnier as I went. I kept one eye on it all the time. Bo walked on the other side of me, away from the crevasse. He kept one eye on it, too. The world got darker and darker as we walked, like the blackness was leaking out of the crevasse and up through the swirling snow to fill the sky. Step by step, the dull light of the fading sun was replaced with a pale silver of moonlight. I fought my deep shivers and kept walking. Finally, I came to a place where the crevasse narrowed down to a thin gap only about 2 feet across. One big stretching step or a jump. I looked farther up the slope and saw that the gap widened out again ahead. I was on the wrong side of it, and I didn't know how long I'd have to go to find its end. Miles, maybe, and I knew my time was running out. This is it, I gasped, bending down to lean on my knees. We got across here. Bo whined and shifted from foot to foot. He panted and licked his lips and tap danced in the snow. I'm sorry, buddy. I don't want to either, but we got to. That's the truth. I slid my backpack off and threw it across the gap. It didn't look far. The crevasse was narrow, but it was still deep. I leaned out and looked down and saw only the blue crevasse walls disappearing down together into blackness. I tried to swallow, but my spit was either all dried up or frozen. I inched 1 foot forward so my toes stuck out over the edge. I heard Bo grumble behind me in a growl that turned into a whine. I didn't look back at him. My legs shook. Without thinking, I pushed off with my lead foot with all the strength my muscles had left and stretched forward with my other leg. The open black mouth of the ice passed under me, and I landed on the other side. My feet slipped on the snow-covered ice, but I made it across, and I lay for a moment in a grateful, exhausted pile. All right, come on, Bo, I hollered across the crevasse. I turned around and got up on my knees. Come on, buddy, you can do it. It's not that far. Bo kept tap dancing. He yipped and whined and ran back and forth in the snow. His whole body was shaking. This is nothing, buddy. Don't look down. Just jump to me, Bo. Come on, Bo, come. Bo tiptoed to the waiting edge. He yipped again, his ears back and his tail down. His front paws snuck up to the very rim. He gathered his hind legs underneath them and lowered his rump, ready to jump. He looked up at me with his trusting, mismatched eyes. Here's what I don't get. Why that dog would trust me and follow me anywhere after I dragged him up the mountain in that storm. That's the truth. Bo sprang. One of his front paws slipped on the ice. He only got a sideways jump. His front paws made it across, but his back paws fell short. He clawed at the ice for a second with his front claws, but there was nothing to hold on to. Bo disappeared over the edge into the crevasse. Oh my gosh. The end. Okay, so you are going to read chapter 12 and a half for homework. When you are done, you are going to work on your text evidence summative. That is the worksheet in the Create section of your binder. When you have double-checked your answers and you are confident that you have completed your explanations and your text evidence, and you know that this is a test grade, and you are still confident of your answers, you are going to turn this in to the substitute. It is due today. If you are finished with all of those things, that is when you can choose an activity from the What Do I Do When I'm Done poster. Okay? Those are the only approved activities that will allow you to do. And have a great weekend, guys.